Welcome to another episode of From Garage to Growth. And this is the podcast where we delve into the transformative power of entrepreneurship in fostering economic independence and celebrating diversity. And in today's episode, we have Rebekah, and she's the founder of Beckha and 22ndCenturyWomxn. And Rebekah's journey embodies resilience, creativity, and commitment to empowering women in the entrepreneurship space. Through her ventures, she not only crafts exquisite fashion, but also breaks barriers and redefines norms. So to get things started, I would like to give you the floor where you introduce yourself and just give us a rundown of what drove you to venture into the entrepreneurship space.
Yeah. Well, wow. Thank you for that introduction. That was so wonderful. Yeah. So, I'm Rebekah Bogle. And I think I've always been very, artistic and entrepreneurship, since an early age. I originally come from London, and I was always around my dad and my mum and my brother and sister, who are also very creative as well. And my dad in particular was self-employed. And from that early age, I've always seen him building or being around, let's say, different clients. And then that's when I saw really the insights on actually how to communicate with people and to be of service to someone. So that's really where it first started. Then my artistic side, let's say, was harnessed in fashion. Around maybe 10 or 11, where I was always looking at colours and fabrics, and being of Jamaican descent and living in East London, where there's a vibrancy of different cultures, food, and ethnicities. It really grew this dialogue, this inner dialogue of creativity and seeing food and seeing colours and wanting to be a part of a bigger, wider community. And that's where I think that's where Beckha really came from, is that essence of inclusivity and creativity and fun.
Nice. So you spoke on the notion of that your father inspired you. You saw that. How has your background in fashion design and styling influenced the ethos of Beckha and shaped this unique identity?
Oh, wow. Wonderful question. Well, I think, let's say, from the perspective of being a British Black woman, so breaking that down in the 1990s to early 2000s, I was always very influenced by maybe two communities. So the British community, the British kind of tailoring, let's say like Alexander McQueen, which is one of my favorites. And then also this vibrant Jamaican, African, colorful side of myself. So really embracing both was always welcome in my feeling, in my society. It was never feeling that I have to decide to
which one you belong to?
Yeah, no. It was always very drawn. Both of them were very drawn to me, actually, and I was able to use that and then harness that in my fashion degree. So my first, let's say, entrance towards that was working in Monsoon. In East London, and then doing my fashion degree in 2008, and going to Paris, going to Graduate Fashion Week, and using different sorts of fabrics to showcase those let's say, different nucleuses in my life. Yeah, and my first collection was based on dandies and based on the Victorian
culture around it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so Victorian culture, but also with this colourful element of structures, waistcoats, using wool, using cotton, and that mixture is part of Beckha. That mixture is part of who I am. yeah, and that's really what I'm trying to continue to do with these new collections that I showcase in Berlin.
Okay, that's nice. So with the difficulty of being in the fashion industry, it's creating a brand. So how have you gone about building this brand, and what struggles or difficulties have you faced and had to overcome?
Interesting question. Most of the struggles have been within myself. So the self-belief that actually I can
Do it.
is the number one. But I think that is because, well, I can only speak for myself, but because of the structure within, let's say, my upbringing, where I wasn't, let's say, from an affluent background where opportunities were just provided to me. I had to sometimes seek out those opportunities to get uncomfortable in certain situations. Take example, I worked for Roxanda Alincic in East London, and her background in tailoring and in the arts is really, really well known. Some of the interns at the time I was there, they were, let's say, from white descent, and they had a little bit more money. I was a student working in Monsoon as well as interning. So this viewpoint that I saw was that, okay, they have some money or they have some access.
Yeah.
I have to actually work, in another job to actually have this internship, to actually be able to even have a bit of opportunity to be in this
Same space.
Yes, exactly. But then moving to Berlin, that was a decision that I made by myself, actually broke a lot of my barriers that I had about myself. And only now I've been able to say, yes, I am a founder. Yes, I love fashion. Yes, anyone can do it. And the most important thing about being an entrepreneur is actually yourself.
Yeah.
And that's what I've learned through this journey. So yeah, and I'm excited to keep going and keep breaking down those barriers, because everyone has the access. No one is limited.
Yeah. Entrepreneurship is largely self-belief.
Right.
So you think you can't do it, but when you do it, that's when you figure out, oh, you can do it.
And then the access is sometimes given to you. You have these different opportunities. Oh, you just put yourself out there a little bit more. You take one more step and then you receive so much more. And that's what I've been doing since 5 years ago now. It'll be 5 years since I moved to Berlin, and I haven't regretted one second of it.
That's good. And you're not looking back, not going back, which is good. Only going forward. Which is good. So, with fashion being an ever evolving industry, and staying on top of the latest trends is kind of what a designer needs to do. How do you stay updated on the latest fashion trends and incorporate that within your designs?
Some parts of it have been through social media, Instagram, or different sorts of media in the newspapers. Sometimes even it's just belief in myself that let me take this step. Let me, instead of buying something new or buying new fabrics or buying new earrings, let me take someone else on a different journey where I use things that are waste, like big tops. Let me redirect what people think is cute and what people think is really lovely to actually see a different side, to a different perspective. And I think that's the focus of an entrepreneur or a fashion designer, is to actually lead the community to see something different. And I hope that's what I'm doing in my job.
Yeah, creating a different perspective of a certain, particular items.
Yeah, I think that's always a thought in my mind of showing people, digging a little bit deeper, going more to the roots of the core of myself, or the core of people wanting to buy, because it's so visceral, fashion, where you want to touch it, you want to feel that connection to the piece, and you want to know the story behind the piece. And that's where the beauty is. That's where the juice is.
Yeah.
I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and the other thing with African culture being African culture being such a story-driven community, stories is kind of what drives the community. So in our art, music, it's the story in that people get like, oh, okay, I'm inspired by that story within it.
Right. And there's something that resonates. So, being in Berlin when I just started, only 2 years ago, I've just started. So I'm still, let's say, relatively new on this journey. But now I realize every time I speak to a client or speak to a new person who likes the product, it's more about me telling my story, telling where I'm from, telling why I do what I do. And that gives them the feeling of, wow, yeah, like, that's super cool. That's super needed right now. And that's when you can just kind of hook them in with it. Yeah, because it is selling is story. Selling is storytelling. And if you can tell a good story, you can sell yourself in any situation, whether it's in a job interview or finding love or whatever. That's where the juice is. That's where I'm most confident, is when I'm able to just let go and
express yourself.
Yeah.
And so in what way do you believe that entrepreneurship can serve as this vehicle for celebrating diversity and promoting representation, especially for women of color?
Yeah, I really truly believe that from grassroots level. I have a niece and a nephew. There's some moments when I remember my childhood thinking, I wish that, we were told more things about entrepreneurship, about self-belief, about really, really simple things like regulating your nervous system, having difficult conversations, because that's all part of being an entrepreneur, knowing the numbers, knowing how to sell, as I said before, knowing, okay, how do I find the solution? Knowing about taxes, just these basic, simple things that we need to know about how to navigate life. So for me, I think it's a mission to make sure Black women, Black girls, Black boys, know these basic skills, because it's all there.
Yeah.
It's all there for us to receive it. And we are all entrepreneurs. We are all able to make. That's our God-given right, in my opinion, is to produce.
Yeah.
Consume it.
Well, it's kind of, both of them go hand in hand.
Right.
You make and consume. It's kind of the human ethos of living to a large degree.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. We're not here really, to be honest, we're not designed to, unfortunately, sit down on a desk. We're designed to move and use our hands and to use our minds, and certain things do numb us right now. And that's why I'm a real advocate for teaching them very young, at a young age, like the basics is necessary.
Yeah. Then by the time you are actually outside, you can maneuver.
Right. Exactly. You have the basics, foundations. So then decide, okay, maybe I want to go into corporate, or maybe I want to, do some training, or maybe I want to be an entrepreneur, or not, but also have this opportunity to go around all of them.
Yeah. And not lock yourself up to one thing at once.
Right.
So we're going to touch on Beckha emphasizing sustainability as in fashion and eco-friendly materials. Can you elaborate on the ethos behind Beckha's focus on upscaling and sustainability, particularly within the context of the fashion industry and its notorious waste production?
Well, yeah, this Beckha was created in 2022, and this was a time during the pandemic where we were isolated, and I was, in my room in a space, and knowing that I wanted to create, but I knew I didn't want to create by buying fabric or by buying something. I wanted to use something old or something used and deconstruct it into something else. And that's always been part of me, is this word deconstruction. To deconstruct or make or remove or reveal the raw part of an item or the raw part of yourself, and to then reform it into something else. And that's where I started to just play around with beer caps. Started to just bash them with a hammer because I was quite frustrated during the pandemic, as a lot of people were.
Yeah.
And that energy of just using a hammer to a metal piece was very exhilarating for me. And then actually forming the product and bending it and molding it just excited me even more. And that's when, slowly by surely, that's when I realized, okay, I can make this into an earring or a bracelet or a necklace. And then I just started slowly by surely just manipulating it. And as I said, this thought of deconstructing was really, really high in my mind. And then it began full circle where I realized, actually this sustainability part is also inside of me, that I love to touch and know that something came from something else. And I had the name for a long time, and that's when every part of those elements came together and then created Beckha.
So did you have the name before you started?
Yes, so that was a labor of love. I had the name for 10 years.
Oh.
So I was sitting on this name for 10 years. 10 years working in London, 10 years just going by, doing nothing, until that pandemic happened.
Yeah.
Until this kind of light bulb happened in my heart and my soul, where I was like, no, this is the time now to start. And it doesn't matter if I get it wrong, just start.
Yeah. It's all about starting.
Yeah.
Then, because I think a lot of people get this notion of fear of starting,
Right.
which is the biggest kind of downfall, or that makes people not start in at all. So starting's the first the biggest mission to kind of get through.
Right. And it doesn't matter if it's wrong. I know I'm going to make it wrong or whatever, but I just started because I was alone, and it was the pandemic, and I knew no one else is seeing me. No one else is watching me. No one else is going to comment. It's just me and this hammer.
Yeah. Give it a whack and see what happens.
And see what happens, yeah. Not on my brain, but...
Yeah. Actually, in what way do you believe that the upscaling movement can contribute to a broader conversation about environmental consciousness and consumer behavior within the fashion industry?
I think definitely a long time in sustainability or upcycling or pre-loved was an old, boring belief system that, who wants to wear something that's been upcycled, something that's dirty, something that's been used. Even I still, little
connotation is still there.
Yeah, right. And actually, right now, where the world is, and where we've come from, actually, we are deconstructing, or we are also rethinking about that narrative that actually these are important things to do, is to change, is to move something from what it was to where it could be. That's the same as I mentioned about storytelling. So when when our grandparents, passed down certain stories or recipes, the recipes reform, rechange as they go along years, and years and years. So why don't we do that with fashion? Why don't we do that with other things as well that we could use? And that's been my belief of moving forward, of how we can, of how women and how fashion can actually change this feel of it being the dirty word. It's actually it being really quite a cool thing that, sustainability is first and foremost in what we do and what I do. So,
which is good. And so we're going to touch on the collection that you currently are hosting at Beckha, which is the E7 collection. And this celebrates London's vibrant culture and artistic freedom. How do you combine cultural identity and representation into your design?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I love, let's say, these types of questions. As I said in the beginning, I'm embracing now all facets and elements of who I am. So before, maybe a few years ago, I just thought that I was London Rebekah, and that's how I would introduce myself. And the fashion too. But with the element of Germany and Jamaica and Britishness, it's all part of one nucleus of myself. And the colourful sides are used in the E7 collection, and also the softer sides as well, where they're more smoother. The can opener is more refined, is more elegant, which is part of who I am as well as a Black woman. And I love to say that more, that we are also soft and gentle and caring, as well as colourful, as well as vibrant. And it's just about embracing all of those elements as a human being. And my next collection, I'm still working on how I can transform that into maybe a more softer side. Using my German
Influence.
side influence. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I really like, or I really want to showcase, the full 100% Beckha. And that will ever change, or ever move, and it's very malleable. So, yeah.
That's good. So how do you go about, with representation being a big thing, and is crucial aspect of cultural celebration, how does Beckha strive to ensure diverse representation in its design and brand messaging?
Excellent question. Well, it is definitely based around community and grassroots. So I have sourced parts of the collection from different parts of the world. So Portugal, Jamaica, London, and building those connections to the local communities, and how eventually I would love to, bring it back to those communities would be the next step. How I go about that and how I do that is still, let's say, under construction. But yeah, that's where I see it. That there's no borders. Where I find the pieces, where I find the people in the communities are everywhere, all around the world. I'm a humanist, let's say.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where I want to kind of bring light to that eventually.
Yeah, so you're speaking about this notion of no borders. Can you speak to the significance of fashion as a form of cultural expression and empowerment as well? And how does Beckha contribute to this narrative?
Well, let's say my belief in terms of fashion and actually cultural representation, and let's say a divisive word, let's say cultural appropriation. I really believe that it's it's important to be aware of where things are coming from and who has made them, and in terms of Beckha as well, where things are sourced. But also, I wouldn't want anyone to feel that they wouldn't be able to wear my pieces, that they wouldn't be able to celebrate it in their own narrative, in their own way. One of the slogans is, of Beckha is, come and play, all humans are welcome. And that's really my ethos. That's really my standpoint. You can wear my piece. Let's say a trans person can wear my piece. A cis white male can wear my piece. There's no borders. It's how you represent that in the world. I'm just giving you a part of who or what I want it to look like, but you can have that narrative. You can create your own story with that. And that's really my standpoint on that view.
Yeah. Which is a good place to be. Like, you will give a piece of yourself and people take it and represent it how they feel.
Right. And it can mold and change and become that next piece that it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So,
which is good. So, as a founder, how do you ensure that your brand's messaging resonates on this authenticity and with a diverse audience, and how does it maintain its core values, not just your values, but the values that you would want represented?
That's a really good question. I am normally now trying to seek really authentic characters on social media who are also like me, and from different societies, from different cultural backgrounds. And first of all, just making sure that we connect eye to eye is my number one thing. Because online, you can have different characters and so forth. But if I have a conversation with you and on Zoom, and we are looking at each other eye to eye, then I know in my heart you're a genuine, authentic person.
Right.
So I use that as a bare basics in terms of moving forward with my brand. And then kind of touching on how I elevate that is by having this more transactional value. So whether I help them market their brand, or in one case, Lucy May, who I'm collaborating with, she's a hairstylist in Germany, in Stuttgart. And we are collaborating with her as a hairstylist and me as a jewelry designer. And I've sent her pieces and she will be sending me some hair products. And I love that transactional value where I can support one amazing artist in Germany with Afro hair, red Afro hair, which is amazing. And she can also support me in my journey as well.
Giving a notion of supporting each other in an environment that caters to helping, which is good. So with the lack of black people within the fashion industry, how do you feel there's added pressure on black designers to excel, and how does this pressure impact creativity and innovation within the industry?
I feel that there is a definite pressure to, let's say, one, to either stay in your bubble or stay in your nucleus, where you are just around your black community, and maybe not wanting to identify with the mainstream, that's the community. I think that's really quite a difficult thing to navigate. Because it's so easy to feel comfortable, to feel like seen within your black community. I always feel, really comfortable and seen and happy. But I know that actually the biggest part of my growth journey is actually to welcome everybody, and that will then allow more black designers, more black entrepreneurs to also have a piece of that. Especially in fashion, we need to be from end to end in all of the in all of the areas, not only just maybe sourcing the fabric, but actually being the editors, being the head of departments from end to end. I think that's the most important thing, that we are seen in all areas. We're not just in one niche. That's not going to help us. That's just going to actually close us off and then create this perpetual situation that we are in right now, and which we saw a little bit open during 2020 and Black Lives Matter, but now I feel like it's going back to where it was before. And we need to move forward. We need to start thinking, okay, yeah, we are marginalized, but that does not mean that
we have to be marginalized.
Yes. Yeah. We don't have to accept that. We can break our own barriers and help the others that are coming along the way as well.
Yeah. So beyond just individual success, how do you envision the role of Black designers in reshaping the industry standards and promoting inclusivity and representation within the fashion industry?
I think now in this modern society, we are so diverse within our Blackness. Let's say we can be influenced by people from North America, South America. So it's so wide, beyond maybe even what we can think of. And I think that's the beauty of collaboration. And that's where I see where we are going. It's actually, we can take this element and form it into something new. And I feel like that's the power that the Black community, Black fashion designers have, is we really go deep and we really meditate on that. And we are kind of gifted on new expressions and new ways of formulating. And I feel that is our gold. That's actually so unique to us. But not everyone has that. Really and truly, not everyone has that. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's our generation, we're big storytellers. It's kind of our thing. We know how to express ourselves when we need to.
Right.
Yeah, we are a very overexpressive group when it comes to certain things.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely a thing we're really good at.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to move into your other venture, which is 22nd Century Women. Can you just walk us down the initial ideation of this platform?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. This I'm also very, very excited about. I also birthed this idea back in 2022. And again, I was alone. It seems like I have these ideas when I'm alone, where
the safe spaces.
Yeah, really is. And I've heard this a lot, actually. When you're just by yourself, certain things are allowed to just come through you energetically. But yeah. So 22nd Century Woman was born out of the pandemic. Something was born out of me sitting down and looking at where we were at that particular point in April 2022. And I remember thinking, like, wow, I've experienced quite, not a lot in my life so far, but I've experienced, 2008 when the financial crash happened, like Princess Diana died, then, 2012, social media, and then now this pandemic. And then I was thinking, wow, women in particular to that, we've also gone through a lot when we weren't able to vote. Now we are able to vote. Now we are able to decide, do we want children? Do we not want children? And then beyond that, I was like, okay, so I'm in this lifetime right now. What is it going to be like in 100 years' time? And then that's when I started to think, 22nd Century Woman. And that's where the juice came. And I really thought, okay, right now I'm in this 21st century, and highs and lows, pandemics, relationship, friendship. What can I do? How can I be of service for a woman in 100 years' time? What is she going to look like? Will she want to be a woman? Let's say, will she, have a home? And then these thoughts and these, let's say, feelings came up. And I really wanted to have a platform to be of service to a community of women when I'm not here. And that's really the basis or the foundation of the 22nd Century Women, is to leave an imprint from now till,
whenever.
And it's
whenever
just
it's needed.
Yeah. Most recently, we've been able to have this amazing platform to be discovered through Green Tech Fest, which is a sustainable company based in Berlin. And we will have a space there in May, and we'll be talking about this in public. We amazing other vendors as well. And then even prior to that, we'll have an actual pre-launch event this April at a space in Alexanderplatz. But I can tell you about that later on. So yeah, it's really exciting to have this platform grow and create a community of people who want to forward think and want to make an impact and a change for every woman, for everybody, really. So yeah.
Congratulations on that. Looking forward to seeing how that goes. So the core values of 22nd Century Women is an emphasis on diversity, empowerment, equality, innovation, and community. How do you go about translating this into tangible actions that you can see within the platform itself?
So right now we are creating certain speakers to participate in the event and in these membership events, actually, whereby we can make grassroots change within our own little nucleuses in Berlin or London or any other cities or even countries, and make those changes within our own little space. What I mean by that is one part of the workshop that we'll do in April is to, let's say, have two elements. So one dystopian view of it being in 100 years' time, and then one kind of optimistic view in 100 years' time. And we'll have two groups of people creating those, let's say, good or bad viewpoints. And actually what we can do as of today, as of right now, to make those small changes. So it could be like recycling more, or it could be something really, really basic, maybe having more women talk about their problems on a small platform, or helping someone who is in need financially, or just listening to them. And these little changes, I think, will make a bigger impact long term. I know it's quite a hard vision to see in 100 years' time, what a woman will be like, but trying to just break that down is probably a better idea moving forward, I think, for the platform.
For the platform. Yeah. So on the notion of vision, and what you currently are trying to do, or what you're trying to put in place, what are the particular things that the platform does? There's an emphasis of breaking barriers and empowering people. How do you go about doing those two things?
Mm-hmm. Well, we want to basically encourage all women, to be part of the community and also to have these difficult conversations about womanhood. For me, that's where the barriers will be broken down. Is it's not exclusive to just Black women or white women, or it's all women that want to be described as a woman, and having a circle where we can talk about if you want to be vulnerable, talk about certain things that that you've experienced. Maybe living in Berlin or living in the countryside, and that sparks more debate. That sparks conversations. That sparks ideas. That's where the energy is, when we are a collective. That's where things get to move forward. Ideas are being grown, trees being planted. These sorts of concepts are only when we are a community, and even a community beyond, Berlin and communities around the world. So that's where I see it. We can change politics if we're in a community. We can change climate if we're in a community where we are able to
understand each other to a degree.
Yes, yeah. But also be able to hear things that are uncomfortable from someone else. Just sit down and listen. That's where the
tangible aspect of it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's always jarring when not jarring, but when you have a fixed opinion about particular things, but then you hear a different viewpoint of that same opinion, which is completely different from yours, and you're like, oh, I didn't think you were thinking it in that manner. So yeah, it's always good not just to have your own fixed viewpoint, because sometimes it kind of puts you in a bubble to a large degree.
So I think that's what, unfortunately, social media has allowed us to be, is either in two camps. Either, we're for someone or against someone. For me, the platform is about everyone, coming together and hearing things that we don't agree upon, but we can still listen and we can still say, well, maybe I don't agree with your point, but I understand, and maybe we can meet each other halfway, and maybe we can also change the world. Because I think at the core of it, everyone, I know this is just for women so far, but everyone wants to be comfortable, wants to live in a nice environment. There's a few people that actually are, terrible people. In my optimistic viewpoint, most people want to live and breathe and be happy. So why don't we just start to put our egos aside and, sit side by side with someone?
And work towards a more united worldview, which is a difficult thing. But if certain people do it, it will happen. So we'll touch on the notion of representation and of women in the entrepreneurship space, and how it mostly sometimes lags behind. How does the platform cater towards making sure that certain voices are heard and are valued?
Yeah, well, I really, that's another thing that we'll be working on. I would love to and want to be able to go into certain communities, let's say underprivileged communities, and let's say, spark off these conversations, even into little kids, and instill in them this notion of the community as a young child, as a young girl, and also being able for them to see another side of the world, let's say. So I know if I didn't grow up in East London, in one of the most underprivileged parts of London, if I didn't work in certain areas, I wouldn't be able to be here in Berlin right now. And I feel there are so many young girls like that in different parts of the world where they know that they want to experience and see something else, or they know inside of themselves that there's so much more. I want to be able to, with this platform, to seek out those individual girls and place them in different parts of society and see how they grow in a different environment and see how they grow. And that's part of the empowerment of 22nd century women. And that changes politics. You don't know where these women or these young girls, what they will be if they move a different environment, how they'll blossom.
Yeah, give them an environment that caters more to nurturing.
Right.
Rather than chaos.
Right. Yeah.
So as we get to like the end of our conversation, there's just two more questions that we'd like to touch on. And one of those is, in your vision for the future, how do you hope the fashion industry will evolve in terms of diversity, representation, and appreciation for varied cultural influences?
Oh, can you repeat that question?
So the fashion industry is somewhat fixed, but in the future, how do you see it evolving in terms of celebrating diversity, representation, and appreciation for varied cultures?
Well, I think again, I think we got to bring it back to the bare bones of it. I think fashion in itself is largely, unfortunately, white. And once we realize that, and once we have realized that, and once we are able to infiltrate in those fashion houses, not just the big ones, but also the small houses where we are the head of design, where we are head of social media, you will see that narrative and that perspective grow and change and mold, where I know a lot of our community bring up people that are just waiting to explode. And I find that that's where we're moving towards. That's where we'll be, is once we are in those positions of power, once we are, let's say, on the table, once we have a seat on the table, which I know some people do right now, just watch and see how, things are going to change. We have to also speak up more on those tables. I know we are doing that already, but when we feel that uncomfortable feeling, just work with it. I've had it in the past where I've worked in companies where I didn't want to really say how I feel, but now I realize right now the world needs more of us to just run with it and say those things that people don't want to hear.
Yeah, that's how you break barriers, and you make people understand more.
Right. You can say it in such a beautiful, poetic way.
Yeah, there's no need to be harsh.
Right.
You can break it down to the point where it's just eloquent, it makes sense, to the point.
Of course. Yeah. Of course. And just watch, like, the magic happens when we take that power and we then bring it to the world. We just need to believe that.
Yeah. So as we conclude our conversation, what advice would you offer to inspiring entrepreneurs who are navigating the complexities of the fashion industry or the entrepreneurship space? And how can they leverage their creativity and resilience to kind of make a meaningful contribution?
Wow. Let's say my advice, and the advice that I am also telling myself, is that it's all in the little things that you do every day. So it might sound a bit weird or boring, but having certain structures in place. So I diligently meditate every day. I don't do often, but I want to restart doing this, journaling, because there's so much. Being an entrepreneur, as I said in the beginning, is mostly about yourself. It's not of course, part of it is about, creating or making, but actually it's how you deal with your own self to actually be of service to your product or your people or your community. It's actually dealing with the sides, the shadows of yourself, being aware of the different shadows by meditating, by exercising, by journaling, cold showers, scanning your environment, having your environment, your space, wherever you live, whether it's with someone or by yourself, cleaning your space, looking at your to-do list and breaking it down. Even if it's just one thing that you're doing per day, that's enough. And then just watch those little steps. Watch that little seed grow into a beautiful, beautiful flower. And I tell you, this is not something that I am just saying. This is something that I've learned through a coach, through mentors, through relationships. These are the boring structures that actually help you to become who you want to be. It's through those daily practices. It's through, let's say, waking up, certain hour of the morning, praying or whatever, whether you believe in God, whether you don't, meditating, exercising, just starting your day with that clarity.
Yeah, and having a routine.
Yes.
So, so that's it from us. And once again, thank you for being here. And this was great. Hope you enjoyed it.
I love this. This is amazingly my first time, and I love. I realize I love talking.
So thank you, and that's it from us.